All right, Helaine, it's all yours.
So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm a little bit of an interloper since I'm from New York, but I know you're accepting people from as far away as Greece, so I think New York will work. And as people keep coming in, I think we'll probably have a semi-small group, but I am looking for participation, and you'll see what that looks like shortly. The first chat activity is, if you know what the sign behind me is all about, put it in the chat. Who knows what the sign behind me is all about? Put it in the chat if you know. Who knows? Anybody know what having a fika is all about? Okay, I'm going to let that sit there and we'll get back to it later. Okay, so this is about the synchronous online flipped learning approach. I'm at Long Island University and also MALP LLC, which I'll tell you about shortly. And the first thing I'm going to do is a poll. This is Poll Everywhere. So if it's convenient for you, you can go to pollev.com, Lane Marsh, or text instead. Text Lane Marsh to 37607 and you'll get the choices, A, B, C, D, E. So you either never heard of flipped learning, you've heard of it but haven't tried it, used it with in-person, used it online, or you can mentor others. Okay, so it's not imperative that you answer this, but I would like you to try if it's easy for you. If it's something that's complicated for you, then you can skip it. All right. So you can see the options here, and someone asked me to put that in the chat. It's pollev.lanemarsh. Can you put it in, Brandon? So pollev.com/lanemarsh, or text to 37607. Text Lane Marsh. It's Helaine Marshall, so I go Lane Marsh. Okay. All right. So just to see what it looks like here, when I used to do this poll, for you guys, I altered it, but I used to do it, and most people never even heard of flipped learning. I'm assuming that many of you have heard of it, and I'm interested whether you've tried it. So the next activity is in the chat. If you have not tried it, only those who have never tried flipping, could you please put in the chat what you think of when you think of flipped learning? When someone says, oh, I do flipped learning, what do you think they do? Only if you've never tried it. Never tried it. Okay, please in the chat. This is somewhat interactive right now, so please pop it in the chat. What do you think of? There's no right or wrong. It's not like that. It's just whatever you think of. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so I don't understand why. So please put it in the chat. Oh, maybe everyone's tried it. That means everybody's flipped already. Okay. All right. For people who have flipped. Now, I want to know if you already have done any flipping at all. Could you please put in the chat your biggest challenge? If you've done it, what's your biggest challenge? If you haven't done it, what's it all about? What do you think of when you think of flipped learning? Okay, so I realized this was listed as identify, and I am going to do a pretty straightforward lecture type presentation, but I like to start by having people jump in and talk to me about themselves a little bit with respect to the topic, so I get an idea of who's here. All right, so whatever you put there, you can read. Now I'd like everyone to read what went into the chat. So read what people put, not just your own, you know your own. Please read everyone else's. So read everyone else's in terms of what they put in the chat. And I'd like everyone to put something in the chat during the next 50 minutes, okay? So you have different ways you can participate, and give yourself a goal of at least putting one thing in the chat during this time. Okay, so now I'm going to look at what we've got here. 17% never heard of flipped learning. Okay, you came to the right place. I have this little button here and it says flipped learning, ask me. ... Okay, Now, next one, you've heard it, but you haven't tried it. That's a big group, good. And then used it with in-person, okay, that's how I started. Use it with online. Oh, I want to talk to you. Send me a private message if you've done online flipping, because that's what we're focused on today. And mentor others, that's what you'll all answer after you're done with this session. You'll all be mentors. Okay, here we go. This is a training of trainers, right? Because we're all pretty techie here. So now I'm going to go into the beginning of the presentation. So here's a quote. I loved attending by the way, I'm going to go forward now. It doesn't mean you can't continue to do the poll everywhere. You can continue to answer the questions that I asked of you in terms of what you think of when you think of flipping or what your challenge is. The chat is wide open, so you don't have to stop, but I need to move ahead. Okay, I loved attending every class. Every class you were able to learn more about each other without even asking. We became a family that supported each other. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. Guess what? I never met these students in person. They saw me like you see me online. How did I do that? I'm going to take you on the journey and show you how I made that happen. All right. So my mantra, I have a mantra, create fertile spaces. So I think when I ask people what their overall goal is in teaching, many people say, cover curriculum, deliver instruction, meet standards. And what I always tell teachers is, instead of focusing on that, focus on creating fertile spaces. Let's follow Sir Ken Robinson, right? The gardener does not make the plant grow. The job of the gardener is to create optimal conditions, right? And if we focus on creating the conditions, they will learn, right? They will learn because we've created the conditions for learning for the students we have in front of us, as I mentioned earlier in a different context. So what are the conditions? Well, we could go on and overwhelm the faculty, right? But what I have found in coaching and mentoring, let's boil it down to some very usable concepts. So I see the conditions as threefold. And this is, remember, conditions for creating fertile spaces. And think for a minute what that means very quickly. We are creators. Remember Bloom. You know, one of the sessions focused a lot on Bloom today. Bloom at the top is create. We want them to create. How about us? We need to be creators, right? And what are we creating? Spaces. And our spaces are now unlimited and expanding every day, right? But the question, the key to good pedagogy is to make them fertile. And my focus is pedagogy. I'm tool agnostic. You can all use whatever you want. I'll show you what I use, but I'm more interested in the pedagogy. So what are the three? Maybe you had a chance to think in your head, because when you see 1, 2, 3, you think, what are they going to be? So I wonder if anyone thought of any of these. It has to be structured. You have to have a structure. You can't just show up in Zoom and stare at each other in boxes. And there are a lot of faculty who don't know what to do when they come to class if it's online. Suddenly they feel like they don't know what to do. No, they need some structure. Okay. The second is multimodal. We need to take advantage of all the ways that we can communicate because we have them. You see me here, hi, and down below, I enabled the captions inside of the PowerPoint. I'm trying to give people different options of how they're going to access what I'm giving you, plus the slides all have the visual on them. Okay, interactive. I'm trying to make it interactive here. And remember, I've already asked you a few questions. By the way, does anyone know what this thing is behind me? You can't see it in the little one on the PowerPoint, but if you came in late, you missed the very first question, which is what's on that sign? What does it mean? No one answered yet, as far as I can tell, although Brandon, you'll have to tell me if somebody answered. Okay, all right, and I'm sorry, I messed up on the interactive. Sorry, I got excited. I get excited and then I push and click too much. Interactive is the third one, right? And we know we have to have regular, sustained interaction, RSI. So of course, interactive. Okay, I want to show you the seminal moment. This was a huge time in my life professionally, was at a conference. And I really believe in conferences. Like I'm coming to yours. I went to one last week. I go to as many as I can. And this was Carolina Rodriguez Buitrago. And we met at TESOL. That's my field, is TESOL, in 2015. And we were in Toronto. She's from Bogota. I'm from New York. And we discovered we were both doing online flipped learning in teacher education. And we were looking for a way to collaborate. And I would not be here today talking to you about this if it weren't for her, because she gave me the courage. And I really think it's important for you to work with other people and collaborate. I also mentioned that this morning on another matter. So SOFLA, 8 steps. Yes, I'm going to give you the steps. But first, I want to tell you what happened to me. I started teaching online in 2008. I started flipping in 2011. I'm teaching online, but I'm flipping in person. I don't know why, but it didn't occur to me until I ran into Carolina that I could do online flipped learning, put them together. Okay, so I'm going to save you a lot of trouble, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, it's not that complicated, but nobody's focused on it. Everyone's focused on strategies and tools and what you do asynchronously and all that business. I want to show you how you can organize yourself to get your students in a structured, multimodal, interactive way to have class with you. So here they are: pre-work, sign in, whole group application, breakouts, share out, preview and discovery, assignment instructions, and reflection. There they are, 8. But I don't like this visual because it's just a list. So I look at it this way, and I think it helps to make clear. So this, by the way, I just want to stop for 1 second, and Brandon's helping me. That graphic, as well as the slide deck in its entirety, and a document of links that has all kinds of links and resources on SOFLA, is popped in the chat. You can pop it in the chat. So,
Helaine, I'm sorry. Brenda actually stepped out, and I'm helping you. I will provide the links.
who is it?
Diana.
Okay, Diana. All right, so Diana will do it. Okay, so do you have the links, Diana?
I do.
Okay, so you can pop in the links document and the deck. Okay. All right, so these are the steps. Now I'm going to take you through the steps, but we're going to have an agenda of 4 areas. The first item on the agenda is going to be the theoretical basis, because I'm a big one for theory. I'm not just going to give you the steps. Sorry. Okay, we're going to talk about the theory. Then part 2 is the steps. I'm going to talk about the steps. Then part 3 will be the rationale and some data, a little bit, look at the research a little on what's so far. And then the 4th is to get you started, give you some tools to get you going. Okay, so that's the 4 steps. So here we go. All right. So I call it the perfect blend, because what I did was I took online learning, and just for argument's sake, I use Garrison, Anderson, and Archer. Okay, that's what I use. And for flipped learning, I use the Flipped Learning Network, because I was on their board for 5 years, and I helped to define flipped learning with them. And that's my source. There are other sources. So this is what I combined. I put them together into a recipe that I came up with as SOFLA. Okay, now for the community of inquiry, the one I'm going to focus on today is the one that we've all been talking about. The hardest, the most challenging of all the presences, I believe, is the social. Now, Steve, who's here, talked about the personal presence of the instructor yesterday, an excellent session. That's teaching presence. I'm not working on that today. All right, the cognitive presence, other sessions have looked at that piece. I'm going to look at the social, and in fact, there's a session, I think, right now on relationships. Well, can't be everywhere at once, unless you're in the Academy Award movie. Okay, so social presence, what does it consist of? Well, remember that quote, "We became a family"? They have 3 elements. Again, I'm not doing too much on the theory here, but just to give you: open communication, group cohesion, and affective expression. Now, those are the main elements that I was looking for in social presence with my students. Now, for online flipped learning, this is not a definition of regular flip. This is online flip. And I'm going to say, full disclosure, I wrote it this morning. Okay, because I've been updating it and trying to think about how I would define it. And this is very close to the original definition that I worked on for flipped learning, but it's written for online instruction. So online flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to a structured, multimodal, interactive, asynchronous learning space. And the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, synchronous learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. Notice the Bloom terminology at the end there, guiding them to apply, engage creatively, okay? So, and this is what Sue, her name, sorry, escapes me, Hellman. Sue Hellman was talking a lot about that today. Watch that video if you get a chance, if you weren't there. So that's the online flipped learning. Now, 4 questions, all right? This is what you got to do. You got to ask yourself what to allocate for asynchronous and what to allocate for synchronous and why, okay? What's going to happen? What are you going to put out of class? What are you going to put in class? You have to have a reason, all right? Now, the easiest upside down Bloom is one way to look at it, the lower level Bloom and the upper level Bloom, but there's a lot more to it than that. That's a basic. How to maximize comprehension and retention in asynchronous. And the point is, of course, you don't want to reteach. So they need to get what they need to get in order to do all of your wonderful things in class. They need to have it and retain it and comprehend it as much as possible. Interaction and differentiation is the focus in class, the synchronous. You want as much interaction and differentiation as possible, because this is your opportunity to do that, okay? And the last one, I learned the hard way by not building in enough accountability in all elements of SOFLA. So you have to build in accountability and feedback, and that doesn't just mean instructor feedback, it means peer feedback, and I'll show you that. So these are the 4 questions if you're going to flip and be successful. All right, so we're ready for the 8 steps. You remember the 8 steps? What are, go in your head, see if you can remember. That was just so I could drink. Okay. Pre-work. Pre-work was yellow. It's the only one that's yellow because it's the only one that's asynchronous. I'm totally on the synchronous page here. Sorry. Asynchronous, I tried it. Didn't work for me at all. They can complain and bellyache, but I want them there with me at a certain time. They don't have to drive to campus, thank you, but they have to be there. Okay, now, what do I use for pre-work? Well, it has to be structured, interactive, and multimodal. So one thing I do, and again, I'm tool agnostic, I use PlayPosit. So here, I'm in teacher ed, so I talk about hand raising, which I'm very against. I'm on a whole campaign against it. Who raises their hand? The gunners. How many of you raised your hand in school all the time? 20% raise their hand 80% of the time. It's soft data, but it's pretty close, right? Anyway, I'm against it, but that's another topic. Okay. So the question pops out and they answer the question. I get the data, download the data. I've got my Excel sheet and I know exactly what the misconceptions are, what they did strong on, what their opinions were if it was a poll question. I get all that data before class. I make sure they hand it in. They have to have done it 24 hours. Give me overnight to look at data before I go to class. There's always, you know, an outlier who doesn't, but they catch on pretty quick that they need to do that. Okay, so so this is PlayPosit. These are lessons I create or I curate. Doesn't matter. The point is you want to give them, or you can use, you know, you want to use AI, go use AI, but you still have to embed something. You have to embed interactions. They can't just and be passive. Doesn't work. Okay, next, perusal. I love perusal, but you can use whatever you want. This is on the left is the text, and on the right is our conversation. And I put a prompt, you can see my little avatar there. I'm going to just blow it up a little bit for you. Oh, then my avatar disappeared. But anyway, it's on the right. Okay, all of this conversation is about the pink one. They highlight the pink. And that just means you highlighted it, okay? The yellow are ones that are also highlighted. And if you click on them, they turn pink. All right, I just want to show you how it works. But the point is that entire conversation is about that one sentence. Now, this is asynchronous, okay? But if they're on at the same time, they can chat. And it's like social media. They can upvote and they can answer each other, and they have the most amazing interactions. Sometimes 6 a.m., sometimes midnight. Who cares? That's the asynchronous piece. But notice it's interactive. There's also wonderful things here. I don't have time to show you perusal, but you can do audio. You can have it read aloud to you. The whole thing can be audio. You can tape record your stuff or whatever you can record, and communicate that way. And there are wonderful features for it. In fact, they have conferences and, there's a lot of things you can do. All right, so that's the pre-work. That's all I'm going to say about the pre-work, okay? Now we're in class. Who starts class? They do. In fact, some of them come in early because they want to know what the sign-in is. What's the sign-in tonight? Because the sign-in is accountability for the pre-work. Now, this particular sign-in has to do with culture because that's my other hat. I was telling you about my MALP LLC. So I also do culturally responsive sustaining education, and I teach multicultural education classes. So this was taken from that. So they'd heard a lecture on intercultural communication framework. So I wanted them to apply it. And I asked them to start by giving an example of a cultural conflict and priorities between themselves and one of their students. Remember, I'm a teacher ed. Anyway, I use Jamboard. It doesn't matter. Use whatever you want. They had to post with their name. And when they come in, they do it. If they come too late and miss it, too bad. You came late. But this is my way of taking attendance, measuring lateness, and also accountability for the pre-work. But the most important is I don't start class. They start it by coming in and seeing the sign-in and answering it. And the sign-in has to be an open question. When I train on this, people don't get that. They think of a question that would be more like the retrieval practice type of thing that I put in the lecture piece. This is supposed to be something that's going to be different for everybody because it's transparent. They can all see what the other people said. So you want to ask something that gives them each a chance to individualize their answers. This is also contributing to social presence, as you will notice. Okay, that's the sign-in. I have to go quickly, right? Okay, whole group application. This next step, step 3, but the second step in class, all right, is the dangerous step. This is where we tend to go and teach again. Don't do that. What you're going to do is target an area where either they're ready to go deeper or they weren't clear on it, and you have them co-construct. This is where you can do a group graphic organizer. This is where you can have a student-led discussion and somebody taking notes. You're there to observe, give feedback, and do informal assessing, okay? That's your job, all right? But you want to see what they can do without you, all right? This is the upper levels now of Bloom, if you want to think that way. All right, the next step is breakouts. And the thing about breakouts is you already know how to do it and you don't need me to tell you. You just do group work. You do however you want to do it. You can do jigsaw, you can do homogeneous groups, and you can have one group that you want to spend special time with, or you're an instructor, you know how to do this. The one thing I have to tell you though is the instructions. You don't want anybody who doesn't understand them. And this is what Paula McMahon was talking about yesterday. You want to really make sure that their speed bump is not going to be procedural, right? This is online. This is hard. So this is a shout out to Martha Ramirez, who and by the way, this is genially. Oh, are you popping, Diana? Are you popping in the links? Okay.
Yes, they are in there.
PlayPosit, genially. I'm into the presentation and forget about the links, but all the links are popping. You can pop them. Okay. Genially is great. I really like it. And you can give them these instructions, how long they have, what their steps are, what roles they might have in the group. someone that's going to fill out a document. There has to be accountability from their group. And then also who's going to speak or show the document when they share. All right, so the next step is share out. Share out is the time when, you know, people don't care about the other groups. They just care about their own group. Not in my class, because they all know that they have to do one of these 4 things because they're going to do peer feedback. So they need to either share something, maybe from their own group. They need to help. We don't say critique or review. We just say help. Help, ask a question, right? And comment. But the comment can't be, great job, group 2. No, unacceptable. They have to give a specific reaction. It was great the way you did this, or I learned a lot about that. A real comment, like we have on our evaluations for the, notice that they say, what other feedback do you have? Okay, all right. So this was Khalid Fethi, friend of mine from Morocco. And it's a most amazing thing. People love it. They don't remember anything about the 8 steps. When they hear me, they just remember Shaq. That was the lady talk about Shaq. They all love this wonderful peer feedback. So there you go. Now you know about Shaq. But students like it because it gives them permission to give feedback, because they, you know, they don't want to give feedback, right? Or they don't know how, or whatever the dynamics are for that particular student. This provides just enough structure. It's not wide open, but it's not overly directive. They can pick from 4 things. And that's what I'm asking you to do. You can pick for 4 things. Everybody share, ask, help, comment. Go ahead. This is a good time, and I'm going to drink some water. Everybody share, help, ask, or comment. Go ahead. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that while I drink water. Everybody in here, the 17 people, well, Diana and I count, so 15. Go ahead, share. I mean it. Share, help, ask, or comment. Anything you've heard so far? Now, you know, I'm going to say something here. You know, some of the things we've talked about is whether students participate, and you wonder why your students don't turn on their camera, why your students don't participate in class more, and you wait and you ask a question and you just sit there waiting. Well, look at you guys. You're not exactly role modeling it right now.
You got us, Helaine. You got us right after lunch. Sorry, you know, sorry about that. You got us right after lunch, but you're absolutely right. And I'm sorry at the moment. I'm off camera because something's going on behind me. But okay. But yeah, we got to model it ourselves.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we also got to train them to do it.
Oh, yes. By the way, I would say that everything I do in class with them first and show them how to do it. I don't just say do Shaq. We practice. What would be a share? What would be I mean, that's teaching, right? Okay, you always teach it first. Okay, next. This is the most important step. By the way, the chat is open. I'm still looking for share, ask, help, and comment from everybody. Okay, just write which you're doing. Help, share, ask, comment. Pick one, please, because we save this chat. It'll be very interesting for people who couldn't come. Okay, preview and discovery is the most important step because, other than the pre-work, because it guarantees the pre-work. This is your chance, and this is the only teacher-led step. The teacher is the center here. This is when you ensure that they're going to do the next assignment, the next pre-work. Now, I call it the trailer because you know how when you see the trailer for a film, a new film comes out, and you see the trailer and you're like, oh, I want to see that, or no way, I'm not going to see that one. So this is your chance to get your students excited about what's coming next. And there are 2 important ways you need to do that. affectively and cognitively. So affectively, pick something interesting, pick something compelling. Sometimes I have a little cartoon in my linguistics class. I have all these linguistics cartoons, and I always find the one like the one on semantics or the one on morphology, or what. I find these cartoons, I show them the cartoon. Oh, that's funny, you know. Okay, and then the other thing is the cognitive. If there's something really tough that you're going to teach, there's an area in grammar I have to teach for the ESL is count and non-count nouns. You don't even know what it is if you're a native speaker, but it's a very difficult concept for native speakers of English because they never thought about it. I pre-teach it. So this is your chance to really pre-teach something that's going to be tough. And then you know what? When they do that pre-work, they'll say, oh yeah, we talked about that in class. You see, you got to hook them. You got to hook them. And a lot of people don't do flipped learning for this one reason. So if you're going to flip, this is very important. Do a preview and discovery. You won't regret it. And don't skip it. I had someone say, oh, I don't have time. I skipped it. Is that okay? And I say, no, it's not okay. It's better to divide your class in half and do steps 1 to 4 and 5 to 8 if you have to split it. Don't skip any steps here. This is a model that only works if you do the whole model. Assignment instructions, I call the boring step. It's just we've got to do it, right? The only thing you remember is it has to be structured, multimodal, and interactive. So when you do the assignment, you do it with them in the synchronous piece. You go to the place they have to go and show them that's where they're going to go and show them exactly what they have to do. And you do it orally, you do it in writing. I also put it on the LMS. I hate even saying LMS, but you know, we need to get out of that box, but that's a separate one. Okay, but I also send it out as a message. I send them a message. I say, reminder, the assignment. So those are the ways you have to do it. You have to be redundant. It's online. Okay, last step is reflection. Who ends the class? Who ends the class? Not me. They end it by reflecting. So the reflection is the same every single class. Pick something that resonated with you. What's one thing you're taking away from class tonight? Sometimes it's some tech thing they learned. It's not even the content. I don't care. I wanted them to think. And if they write great class, no, I erase it because this is, you know, on a board online. I just erase it. And they learn pretty quick. They can't say great class. Oh, I learned so much tonight. Erase. They have to be very specific. And then the beauty is they see what other people put. So everybody sees what everybody learned. And then when they're ready, they go. But it's a way for accountability. They know they're going to have to reflect at the end, so they pay more attention in class. And also they know that they're going to be able to see what other people learned, and that when they're done, they can leave. And if they need to stay and talk to me, that's fine too. Those are the 8 steps. How you doing? You got your 8 steps? Should we debrief? Okay. So is this the flavor of the month? What do you think? You know, a buzzword, flavor of the month, SOFLA. Well, I have to show you because butter pecan is my favorite, and that's what it is. Can you tell? It's butter pecan. My husband's favorite is cherry vanilla. I can't keep the house in cherry vanilla. We're running out. He says, no more? Anyway. That's the story. So is it the flavor of the month? What do you think? All right, I'm going to show you something. I teach methods and methods of teaching. And I tell my students, I'm not going to be your methods instructor for years and years to the future. Something's going to come along down the pike and you're going to have to decide whether you think it's any good or not. So I'm going to give you 3 questions. Anything that comes along, you answer these 3 questions. And then you'll know if you think it's something you want to try. So let's try those 3 questions with SOFLA. Instructors. What's in it for the instructors? Why would it appeal to instructors? Think of yourselves. Why would it appeal to you? Students. Why would it appeal to students? Why would they like doing this? What would be in it for them? And the third is the research. What does the research say? Can we get anything out of the research that will tell us this will work, this will be effective? Those are your 3 questions. Let's take a look. We don't have time. This is its own presentation, but I'm just going to show you, as you can see, by the way, at the bottom, there's very little research. If anybody is doing a dissertation, I have people in Lebanon and Australia and Japan and all over, not as many in the US. It's interesting. This is caught on more internationally. Anyway, instructors cede control, but not authority. You're still the one, but you're not in control as much, right? Freedom, but within structure. So within each of the 8 steps, you can create your own. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you the parameters of the step. Okay, and your role is shifted. You're not center stage anymore, except for the step 6, but you're really observing, giving feedback and assessment, which is what you never really have enough time to do. And it's a really important part of your job. All right, why would students like it? Let's look at that. Active from start to finish, right? No passive. They're not passive. Did you notice that in the steps? They can take ownership of their learning. And ownership is something else. I added some information to our paradigm discussion about that. If you want to read more about some ideas I have on that. Ongoing support from peers and instructor, right? We're all there together helping each other the whole time. They are supported. The students are supported, very important. The research, okay, what such as the research is, and it's mostly small numbers, qualitative. I'll show you in a second a couple of pie charts. Attendance, motivation, and participation tend to be better. Student agency, mastery of concepts, critical thinking, self-assessment, and awareness of a learning process. But these are just findings that very small studies, my classes, the classes in Czech Republic, and in Spain, a study from Spain came in last year, the year before. Okay, this is very recent though, and we really need more research. I would really like to have connections with people. So this is the out of class readings. This was Chizuko Konishi Wallastad, former ESL student of mine. She was at the intermediate level. Then she went on and got her doctorate. And now we present together and do studies together. That's what you really want, right? Okay. So you can see the percentages there. They really like doing perusal and sharing together. Remember, that's the one with the social annotation. Okay. These were the breakouts. They love getting away from me and going off on their own. I'm not too nosy. When I go from room to room, I see how they're doing. If they need me, I'm there. But if they don't need me, I just leave. I don't butt in. It's their time. By the way, when you do breakouts, time off task is just as important as time on task, because part of the breakout, and you have to make them long enough, is for their bonding and their relationships with each other. So they shouldn't feel guilty. Oh, we're not doing the work. No, they'll do the work. They're going to do the work because they have the instructions. Remember from the one, the genial I showed you. All right, this is the big one, right? SOFLA, should we use it? This course structure. Okay. And notice we got some pretty good numbers. Now, this was my literacy methods course. So I was teaching them how to teach listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English. That was the class, and it's graduate level. Okay, here's a student's reflection. I really gotten to know each and every one of you, which is the foundation to this class, building genuine and effective relationships I will reflect on from this point on. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. She really enjoyed the class, and many of them did. Now you want to get started. This is, if you're following my agenda, this is the get started part. So you want to get started? Okay. So, Diana. So
yes,
this,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that we have 8 minutes left.
yeah, this is the, yeah, okay. This is the hyperdoc. So what this is, I'm going to blow it up for you. This is the 8 steps, and I have to thank my colleague Heather Rubin. I don't know how to do that. I'm not good with this type of thing. I'm a conceptual person, not that kind of making these things. So she made it. I couldn't ever do it. But anyway, it's beautiful, right? Anyway, you can use this as a hyperdoc to guide you and to give you, the 8 steps and have the students click and you click and go wherever you go for your tools and all of that. So that's the hyperdoc if you want to get started. And I want to give you a little, for the mantra, create fertile spaces. I hope you see that they're fertile, but I'm going to give you a process because this is not going to be for faint of heart. Okay, it's taken me a long time to get there, as I told you, my journey. Okay, so you have to have 4 things. First is patience. You can't just suddenly use SOFLA all the time. You need to try it. Okay, and you need to persist. Don't give up, because it's going to be hard for you, hard for the students. There's some resistance with any kind of flipping. Anyone who's flipped knows that, but you have to persist, and they will come along with time. And then you reflect, because you say, okay, what are the issues I'm finding? I might have to recalibrate this and shift it. That happened to me. I didn't have any accountability in the breakout step. And then I realized I needed accountability, and I built it in, and the model became better. And then renewal, which is what I just said. Okay, renew yourself. So PPRR, that's my little formula. You can use it for anything, by the way, right? Losing weight. Anything. You never know what you're going to get from a conference. Okay, here's how you can continue. So if you go to PlayPosit, I have a PlayPosit course on SOFLA. I have a Persuall course on SOFLA, all free, no money, no money. So you can go to PlayPosit to see if you like videos. If you like to read articles, go to Persuall. Okay. And I have a Facebook page, just because you're supposed to. I don't do much with it, but anybody wants to help me. I have a website. Again, you're supposed to have a web. I have all these things. So you can go to the website, the Facebook, the Persuall, the PlayPosit. You can email me. Diana, did you put everything in? Oh, there's also, that's it, by the way.
Everything is in there.
There's also 2 videos on YouTube. There's a playlist of 2 videos. There's a 6-minute and a 15-minute. If you want to show other people SOFLA, just send them a link to the YouTube videos. The 6-minute one is really very short, but the 15 is good. You could use the 15. They're Prezi videos, by the way. I love Prezi. Anyway, that's the story. So
and you had a question in the chat. I don't know if you know that.
Okay, hang on. That's the last slide. So now I'm going to stop sharing and entertain questions. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So it was Stephen. Stephen asked about what flip means.
Yeah, what's the
Sorry,
word?
Go
The
ahead.
word flip, is it an acronym or what?
No, it simply means to exchange in class and out of class.
Exchange in and out, okay.
So what you used to do in class, which is teach, and what they used to do at home, which is all the homework that was tough and they weren't sure how to do it all, you flip it so that the harder part is done with you and the basic, here's the information, is done out of class.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's not an acronym. That's interesting. SOFLA's an acronym. Okay. Anybody else? Thanks for coming, everyone. Questions? Anybody?
I think your reflection part is critical. And I like how you said it's a review for everyone. And I like how you say you erase stuff if they just say good.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about SOFLA. Everything's transparent. Everybody sees what everybody does. The products from the breakout, the sign-in, the share out piece, the reflection, and the recording of class. So everything is there for them. It's all transparent. You know, nothing gets handed in just to me.
Do you
Everything.
mind if I ask a question about the renewal part? So I wanted to know, I don't know if you can hear me, but I wanted to know a little bit more about the renewal. I knew about the first parts, but that's something new to me. So what does that mean? Like, is it a renewal of the class? Is it just the assignment, or does it have many aspects to it?
Well, do you mean the reflection step, or do you mean when I do patience, persistence, reflection, and renewal?
That one.
Okay, so after you reflect, it's like almost when you do yoga or you do meditation, you're reflecting. So the result of that is you are renewed, that it's like spring. It's like, I feel new, something's different, something's new. And then you go from there. You're not going backwards, you're going forwards. Does that help? Yeah, it's a mindset, growth mindset. It's another way to look at growth mindset. Anybody else? Did you all do Shaq in the chat? I can't wait to read the chat.
Helaine, thank you for doing this so much. I did a bunch of training of hybrid trainings, getting faculty to think about that, and flipping the classroom really was an essential part of us being able to do hybrid trainings. So I really appreciate how much work you did on this, and I'll use it in the future. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad. Let me know. Let me know.
So
Yes,
also,
and please, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tammy.
okay, basically, Rana had a wonderful question that I agreed with. And so she was asking, in face-to-face learning, instructors, you know, you pace your classes, you know how much time you're going to have for each piece. In this flipped learning, especially for those of us who haven't done it online, what does the pacing look like? How do you allocate time?
Okay. Well, actually, that's one of my weakest areas. I tend to get bottled up in terms of the distribution of time. So what I do is I calibrate the breakouts. In other words, the breakouts can be shorter or longer depending upon the rest of the lesson. The other steps take how long they take. I mean, the sign-in can be very quick, or you can have more of a discussion of the answers. So that can go either way. The reflection is always very quick, and the assignment instructions is always very quick, okay? The preview and discovery depends upon your next lesson. How hard is it? How, you know, what's going on with them? How likely are they to do it? You know, you have to, there's no set number of minutes, put it that way. You have to kind of judge for each night or each day or whatever you're teaching. You have to judge how you want to divide it up. I don't do it that way myself. I mean, if somebody wants to come up with suggested minutes, but I know someone who teaches it at the elementary level online, and she does 2 days. She does 1 to 5, 1 to 4, and 5 to 8, because she can't fit it all in the way, and the kids have a short attention span. So the timing is more up to you, but that's a great question, and I do need to look at that more. Thank you.
That also is really nice to know that it can take more than one lesson to go through them. And that is particularly helpful. So thank you for that information too.
Yeah, they can end with the breakout and then come back the next lesson and start with share out. That's another way to do it.
Thank you so much, Helaine, for an amazing presentation, and all of you for participating. We encourage you to evaluate the session. I put the link in the chat, and I'm gonna end the recording now to let you guys jump to the next one.
Before you end it, I have to tell everyone what a fika is, because did anyone get a fika? Having a fika? Having a fika is in Sweden when they take a break and they just grab a colleague. It's not an official coffee break. It's whenever they feel like they just need to get out, and they go somewhere and they get something, a little beverage like a tea or coffee and a little snack, and they just take a break in their workday. And so I learned that when I went to Sweden. So have a fika. Go have a fika.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.